Thank you all for tuning in. This is Selena and
Iman.
together we make You Plus Happy. Each week we bring you someone who challenges us to define success and happiness on our own terms with a dose of laughter.
Remember to like and subscribe at You Plus Happy Podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram at You Plus Happy.
Hi, Iman.
Hey, Selena. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So, anything exciting or fun happened this past week?
So, this is not exciting or fun.
Okay.
But I have a tip for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Here it goes, you guys. Don't work out in dress socks.
That is a good tip. Don't think most people do that, but go ahead.
Listen, okay, I skipped laundry day a few times and it had no more socks. However, I didn't have any more workout socks. So I was working out outside and it's cold. So I wanted the long socks, to cover my ankles and stuff. And can't have your ankles out when it's 30 degrees. Don't do that. And so I thought they were regular socks. So I just threw them on. Halfway through this walk, my feet were slipping and sliding in my tennis shoes. I had a blister.
Oh.
I was like, what the heck? And I was going to jog. So I was jogging a little bit. I was like, I'm not going to be able to jog in dress socks today. So I was walking. My shoe was slipping off. Listen, I don't want anyone to do this. I guess, I don't know what I should have done. Like, had cold ankles.
I mean,
or just wear the dress socks. I don't know. Okay. But it was really, yeah. Listen, I don't know. It was bad.
PSA announcement.
Tune in next week for more tips of my errors. What about you?
Good tip. Good tip.
You're welcome.
So nothing fun or exciting happened for me either. But I've been very reflective over the last week. So I made a list, and I've done this before, but I feel like my list changes from year to year. So I made a list of things that make me happy.
Ooh.
And it was just as I was making, I was like, oh, these are very simple things that I can incorporate in my day-to-day every week. So that has been my goal, is just at least doing one or two of those things on a weekly basis. So that was my reflective moment.
That's so nice.
I did notice a lot of things on my list were related to food though. And I was like, is this a problem?
No, they should be. I wrote my top 5 happiest things this week. Like things like the list. Well, 2 things I can't even say, and the other things were coffee and wine, or 3 things I can't say. So coffee and wine.
I definitely had tacos on there. I love tacos. I had my mangoes on there, salsa. I was like, oh, it's a lot of food related stuff. Like, I think I have an issue with food.
No, food is yeah.
Oh, and you're almost done. This is your last day, right? Of dry February?
Oh, honey.
Oh. Never mind. Next topic.
This wasn't a good month to try that. I took it down to once a week.
I mean, it's all about progress towards the goal.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be doing no dry months no time soon. Maybe 2022. What's going on? I can't put nothing else on the plate right now. Okay. We'll put something in the glass.
So
anyway, back to the topic.
Moving on. So this week we have Justin Rambo on the show. Justin is a personal development coach. In his youth, Justin had a very explosive temper, which normally landed him in trouble, dealing with self-doubt and an inferiority complex. He graduated high school with a 1 point something GPA and had his first child at a very young age. Ended up dropping out of college twice by the age of 22. Multiple car repossessions and piling up over 6 figures worth of debt. The odds were really stacked against him. By 26, Justin had succeeded in his third attempt in entering college and earning his bachelor's degree. 2 years later, he opened his first business, and it was because of this business that personal development became a factor in his life. In 2014, he was introduced to personal development, and from there, his life began to change. He was able to confront himself, find out who he really was, and figure out the strengths and weaknesses and change his perspective, and also mend broken relationships. Really started chasing his dreams after this. And in 2019, he formed Versatile Success LLC and launched the Versatile Success podcast. He wrote the book Turn Down the Noise and wants to share and help teach listeners the power of personal development and how it can positively change your life. So we had a really great discussion with him. So hop into it. Hi, Justin.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So I guess just jumping in, how did you get started with Versatile Success podcast and eventually writing your own book, Turn Down the Noise?
Yeah, so here's the craziest part, is I think all that started at age 34, but it took me 34 years to get here, meaning uh in a nutshell, I went through a lot of different things in life, and I had to figure out like who I was. I had to figure out what I was good at, what my purpose is, even though I believe there's more than one purpose. And I'm big into like meditation and energy and positive things, affirmations. And so, long story short, 2019, I had closed the business down a year before that. I had a personal training studio for 4 years, and I was trying to search within myself in terms of what I should be doing and who I am. And so I do my meditations, mantras every morning, get up at 4:30, do something positive, and just remove all the distractions from my life, meaning no TV, no social media, and no music. So I committed to that in 2019, and I thought it would take a whole year for me to figure out what to do. But since I had no distractions, since I was asking and seeking, okay, what should I be doing? The answer all came to me. It was Monday, February 25th, 2019. And I kid you not, it was like a aha moment, like a download moment where the name Versatile Success came to me in terms of a personal development company. The book idea came to me. By that night, I had the logos, the EIN, the LLC, all that stuff created. So, what really happened for me was I put all my energy into searching and building myself up to where I call it as a download day. And what I mean by that is, if you get in the car and you turn the radio dial and you can't quite hear what's going on, you hear something. Okay, maybe it's some music, maybe it's someone talking, but you don't know what it is. And then the more you turn it, you start to understand what's going on. And then when you hit that final station, the right station, you get the full message. And so, long story short, 2019 is when it hit me, but I had been working on myself for years prior to that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I have some follow-up questions. So when that hit you that day and you did all that work in one day, were you scared? Were you nervous?
Not about the actual company, because I think I'm a natural born entrepreneur anyway, but
Okay.
the book is what scared me because my grades weren't good in school. I was a terrible student. And I think I graduated high school with like a 1 point something GPA. And I dropped out of college twice. I did finally graduate with a bachelor's degree, but it was when I was older. But
Mhm.
I always thought to myself, okay, I'm not the smartest. I can't read the best. I can't write the best. So why should I be writing a book? You know what? I'm going to interview people that have done something and tell their story in my book. So that's what I was telling myself. And then I was doing an assignment where I had to write about my life. And I looked at what I've done in my life and I realized there's a story there that can help other individuals. And so the issue was, prior to me doing that journal assignment, my whole life was in my head. And so if I asked you both to uh, tell me the entire line from a movie, you would get bits and pieces, right? And so within our own lives, everything's stored in our own head. But when I wrote it down, I actually saw what I did. And so it gave me the courage to write the book.
Okay. And how long do you meditate on average? When you first started, like how many minutes?
Yeah. So when I first started and what I currently do is the same. So it hasn't changed, but probably like 2 to 3 minutes. So I'm not like a deep
Okay.
meditation. And my meditation is not so much trying to quiet everything down. I have my mantra that or affirmation that I say, and then I just sort of um like just listen to myself, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Observe the thoughts that are going on in my head, but then also ask the universe, God, whatever you believe in,
Mm.
okay, what I should be doing. Like what is my cause? What's my purpose? Am I on the right path? Because the reason I titled my book Turn Down the Noise is because of that whole scenario of me eliminating all my distractions to find what I should be doing. And then I realized then that all the answers that we seek, we already have. We're just too distracted to see everything because we have social media, we have family, we have friends, we have entertainment, but we all have the answers to what we should be doing, who we are, how we feel. But there's just so many distractions. And so once you quiet those distractions down, those answers start coming to you.
Okay, so if I start today doing 2 to 3 minutes, how long is it going to take for me to get my answer?
It depends. So prior to that, right, I want to preface it with this. Prior to that, from 2014 to 2018, I started doing some really hard internal work on myself because I
Mm,
was going through a lot of things, right? So I had two daughters from my previous relationship. So we're going back and forth to court for child support and custody. So that's a drain on anyone, on both parties. But then I had just opened my business as well. And I wasn't making that much money. And so it forced me to look at myself because my temper was coming back out now. So I had done the work prior to then for 4 years straight, meaning every year, every week, every month, doing something to find myself, but to understand myself at a deeper level, get to my foundation, find the root causes of certain things, understand why I react and respond certain ways. And so when 2019 hit, I had gotten to a place where I was able to remove the distractions because I had my foundation of who I was. The question was, what should I be doing? And
mm.
so I would say it really depends on a lot of different experiences. So some people it may take a long time, some people it may take a month, but it all depends on what type of work you're doing for yourself and what you've gone through.
And you did all of that in the beginning by yourself,
Hmm.
like all the internal work.
Yep, I did.
Yeah, and I guess that was one of my questions. Like, what I know you said that you went through a lot, but like, was there someone in your life or someone like in your circle that like prompted you to just be like, look, I need to stop and see what's really going on, or was it just this like aha moment where you're just like, all right, something needs to change?
Nah, I got tired of myself. I got tired of me, right? But the real answer in short is I feel like I've always been a self-aware person. I just didn't realize it. So I was always trying to grow and become a better person. But
Mm,
when all these things started hitting me at once and they're all negative, I started to realize, okay, there's a common denominator here. Let me look at the common denominator. Let me look in the mirror, right? And so I'll never forget, I was at some conference and the speaker at the conference used to be homeless, and then he was in prison for 2 years in Paris or something like that, something really random and weird. And so at the time I had just opened a business, I thought he was going to talk about how to make money, but he started talking about personal development. So I said, well, what is personal development? Like, do I go to a vending machine and get a snack out that says personal development? Do I take, like, I didn't know what it was.
mm.
And so when I got back, I started like Googling and YouTubing it. And I realized, oh, self awareness, growing, exploring. And this is the perfect time for me to do it because all these things are happening. So I started finding my own ways. And so I would say mentors weren't direct, but they were out there, meaning I can search on the internet to find certain people like Eric Thomas, very inspirational to me. Uh, and I can just go from there. So it was like my own internal work.
Mhm.
Yeah. I feel like you already answered this, but this is on. um, when was like the turning point though? So like before this business, you had the fitness.
Hmm.
Was there like a turning point to get to that and then to get to the next business?
That's actually a good question, and no one's caught on to that. So the real turning point, because if anyone that's listening, if they got what I said, I was a terrible student and I had a temper. The
Mhm.
only other thing that I was really good at was sports, right? So when sports was taken away, meaning when I was 20 or 18, I played 1 year of college football and then I was done. So we remove that one good thing. Shoot, I don't know who I am. I'm a kid with a temper who's terrible at school. And then I had my first daughter at an early age. For me, the turning point was, I believe, I'm not sure how old I was, maybe 23, 24, where I got a job in an affluent area and there was only one person who looked like me there. But I was part time and I was getting promotions. They started giving me higher level positions. I started having more responsibilities because of how I carried myself and the fact that I wanted to learn from other individuals. So me realizing what I thought about myself as the person who wasn't smart, as the person who just had a temper, understanding that I can move up and move forward in life when I accept the fact that I need to grow and I do better. And so that was like the smallest thing that was a turning point for me, because then after that, I went back to school and then after for my third stint. And then after that, I graduated and then I got a job within my field and then I opened a business. So it was like that long gradual, but 2014 was when everything sort of hit at a head. But that one stint at that affluent area, that company, was like the turning point for me.
When you
And
say
it
you had an
sounds,
anger, sorry,
uh,
I wanted to ask about anger real quick because I know people hear like, oh, I had a temper. I put anger on it. I'm sorry, but he's like, I had a temper. How did it manifest itself? And it did meditating calm it down? Yeah, asking for a friend.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things. It manifested itself. Mine was explosive, right? To where if like I remember in my senior year in high school, I was talking to my ex-girlfriend on the phone and it was right before school. I don't know why we're talking that early. It's kind of weird, but it was right before school and we got into an argument. And then the next thing I know, my desk was in front of me and I took my fist and I hit it and it cracked. So my mom comes in, is like, what was that? I broke the desk. All right. She sort of brushed it off. And then the next day she comes home. Why is the clothes basket broken? Oh, I got mad about something. And then a couple months later, they get a call from the school saying, hey, your son's suspended. He just knocked the kid out in gym class over gym class. And so it was like these things that were happening, but I always knew it was explosive. And that I have had that since I was a little kid. And so when you become an adult, that becomes a big problem because
Mhm.
now you're looking into getting in trouble. And then you don't have your parents to sort of shield you from a lot of different things. And so for me, I, a couple of different things helped me with my own temper. The meditation does help because it calms you down, but it allowed me to realize I can think first before I act. And if you think about the results that you want out of the situation, it typically dictates the action that you take within the situation. And so that split level of thinking, or that split time where you just think and that little immediate, helps out a lot. But then I also realize, hey, my temper is explosive, but I can get really mad and then I'm fine. So in that little frame where I get mad, let me just think instead. And then before you know, I'm like, oh, okay, that's not a big deal. You know what I mean? So it's something that I don't think ever really goes away. You just learn how to manage it and not let it get to that point. But here's the craziest part, right? When you are self-aware and you do a lot of personal development. Now, let me ask one of you: is you don't have to say who, but someone get angry a lot?
mm,
Um,
not really.
Okay,
I feel like Selena's more
I actually
emotional.
really do know someone who I'm like concerned about, but myself, I have really bad road rage. That's how so I do have anger sometimes, and it manifests itself in road rage because I have a shield around me, right? And most of the time, no one's gonna ever hear me. I don't say it's anything to anyone, but I notice like when I am, this is a long answer, but when I am angry, when I'm fine, I don't have road rage. But when
mhm,
something's going on, it'll manifest itself that way. And so it's something that I know, like I'm having road rage today. What's going on? It's something I have to check in with myself. So that's why I asked you how it came out, because how you notice it. Because it takes a little self-awareness to realize it's not about the road rage. It's not about anything happening. You're mad about something
Oh
else.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
you want to
100%.
check in on that. And that's why I said that.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do that either, because it's still aggression, like, and it's not a healthy way to get it out.
Yeah. Well, here's the cool part though. And so at least in my case, I realized, so I believe in balance in life, right? There's morning time, there's nighttime, there's light, there's dark. There's always balance, yin and yang. And so with a temper, it when I thought back about it, right? Because part of personal development is that reflection. So when I thought back, I'm like, anytime I got mad, I was really trying to get my point across, and I was really passionate about whatever that situation was. So it showed that I'm actually a passionate person, and I can focus 100% on one specific thing. So what I had to do was repurpose that energy into something else
Mm.
more positive, right? And so the same way I move my hands and I talk and I use my facial expressions, it's the same way I looked when I was angry, and it still got attention. So I'm doing the same thing, but I'm taking that negative and putting it into a positive. So I'm taking that energy and refocusing it on something else. And so for anyone that's listening, if you do have the anger issue, or whatever the issues are, there's always a positive and a negative. You just have to discover what that positive is and take that energy and shift it into something else.
Yeah.
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 And it sounds like throughout your journey, that's what you've done. Even with, like, getting your job in that more affluent area, being like, okay, these are my challenges, but look at how it's allowing me to move up in this field. So along the way, like when you were faced with challenges, what kind of helped you get through that? Like, was there something specific that you did to kind of be like, all right, this is a challenge, but I'm gonna move past it?
Yeah, I would say routine. Like my routines have saved me, have helped me, because if I have a certain routine of doing my affirmations every morning, getting up at a certain time, sometimes journaling, whatever that routine is, or even doing podcasts, or uh, sitting out, getting out videos and things like that. Those routines help me because it's shifting that energy. So when when I have those moments where you don't feel like doing anything, or you have that self doubt, or you feel that negative energy around you, at some point you have to get back into your routine, and that your routine is going to, I guess, redirect your energy or help you in terms of the positive thinking. But the cool part about that is you also realize what tools you have to help you get over whatever it is, because you've gone through it before, right? So there's probably nothing that we've gone through that we haven't gone through before. But it's when you reflect on those situations and you realize what tools and what parameters, what things you can put in place. So sometimes when I am at my lowest moments, I know that there's certain things I can do to redirect my energy. And for instance, if I'm at a low moment, sometimes I just need to go upstairs with the kids and we just get around the table and we just talk and have fun, right? So I use that on purpose. Obviously is for the family time, but use it because it works for me. Sometimes I need to move and exercise. That works for me. Sometimes I need to just take a break from everything and watch some history. Everyone laughs about that, but I watch history a lot, right? Because what is history? History is taking someone's entire life and condensing it down and learning along the way. So history is personal development. So the same things that our grandparents, our parents taught us, we can see it in someone's whole life, how it played out. And so sometimes for me, that shows me certain things or it motivates me in a certain way. So honestly, it's just my routine, and the routine shows me that I can get over it because I've done it before, but it also paints a picture of, um, or gives me the tools I need to overcome it.
Yeah. I love that concept of just redirecting energy, because I feel like sometimes when you're so caught up in a space or like you're down, it's so easy to get stuck there. And being able to just be like, look, I've dealt with something similar. Like, what helped me get out of it before?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's easier said than done,
It
but
is. It is easier said than done, but you can always, for anyone that's listening, you can always. So part of the routine, in what you just said, when I in the morning, I said I just sort of think and let my thoughts. A lot of that is reflection. So if I have a routine of reflecting, then I always have a roadmap of when I've gotten over something. So I'm always remembering certain things. So that's why I said that routine saves me, because I'm not forgetting that, hey, you've gone through this before, you know what to do. And so, yeah, I definitely agree. It's easier said than done, but that routine is going to help you.
Mhm.
And I wanted to touch back on the anger, and then like, and even with you noticing like you need to do something, like you notice there's a problem that needs to be fixed or redirected. Well, I feel like say for instance, I'm at the store and something subtle happens, and then someone gets so angry. I know that's not about me, and that happens a lot. And I think those people in those instances don't realize that they're angry about something. I was just the trigger. Does that make like, and you
Hmm.
don't even know me, somebody will like this happened recently, somebody bumped into my cart and they got so mad at me. I was like, but I knew that wasn't about me. And I'm not saying I'm better. I knew they were frustrated about something else because it's just hitting a cart. It's not a big deal. But I'm saying that to say, like, for listeners, it's important to recognize that, like what I said about the road rage. I could just say, oh, I have road rage. No, you have anger about something else. So just I think that reflecting and taking a step back, but you make it sound simple, but I don't think everyone does that or realizes it. So I just think I wanted to drive that point home because I see it so much, like just day to day, people angry, and it's like, y'all, we gotta all calm down. We don't want to hurt
Yeah.
nobody.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
right. Um, but we talk. So the whole reason me and Iman started this podcast is because everyone talks about success so much, and of course we all want success in some way, but we need to talk about the failures too, because there's a lot along the way. So for you, when did you feel like you failed on this journey, and what was your biggest takeaway?
I, so it's going to sound really weird. I never really feel like, at least after, a certain age, after 25, I never really felt like I was a failure with anything because I look at everything as a lesson in life. And I know that sounds cliche, but for instance, when I closed my first business, now I had it for 4.5 years, which is, I don't know if it's average or above average first time having a business, right? It's a brick and mortar studio. I had employees and things like that. And when I closed it, it was financial because I wasn't bringing in the type of money I wanted to bring in. B, we had just had a son, so I wasn't at home that often. But in my mind, when I first started the business, I thought that would be the thing that would make me wealthy and rich and things like that, right? So when I closed, I'm like, oh, I can look at it as a failure, or I can try to figure out like what I need to do next or where I made the mistakes at. You know what I mean? And so for me, it's not so much a failure, it's almost like a marker,
Mm.
meaning, you know how you used to, I don't know if you guys play video games when you're younger or not, but like if you play Mario Brothers and you're on level 2 and you fell off and you fell all the way down, you start back at level 2. You don't have to go back to level 1. You're starting
Mhm.
somewhere again and you know what you did wrong. So you just you fix it and go to level 3. You might mess up at level 3. And so for me, I don't ever feel like a failure, but I do, however, feel like sometimes I can be doing more or I can be doing better or I'm not learning fast enough. So those things do bother me. And sometimes I catch myself, this is very seldom, but I catch myself scoreboard watching a little bit, right? You see this person and not as sweet as you. You're like, yo, what? Why are they getting attention right now? But you're like, you know what? That's their that's their path. I have a certain path. I don't know what they did behind the scenes. I can't walk in their shoes. I can only control what I can control. And by the way, with the whole reflection thing, whatever I'm going through now, this is going to be a great story to tell later because I'll get over it at some point.
Mhm.
Mhm. So, what's been kind of your biggest motivation or inspiration up until this point that kept you going?
Yeah, I think it shifted so much. I think at first I wanted to prove to everyone that I'm not just an athlete and that I'm not what I thought I was stupid when I was younger, right? So I wanted to prove that. And then at some point that left because I started, graduated college, I got a good job and blah, blah, blah. Um, and then it became, okay, I want my kids to have a better life than I had. Not, I didn't have a bad life, but I wanted my kids to have more. But that didn't drive me enough. And it sounds really weird to say because everyone says, my kids are my why. But if I want my kids to have more, that more can mean, okay, maybe, they just get more, they have more in life just a little bit than I did. Maybe they get better clothes. Okay, now they have more. So that's not enough for me. And so what I did and what I do now is, since I'm a big history buff, right? I love history a lot. I asked my aunt for the family tree, my mom's side of the family, all from down south. And I looked at all the names. Obviously, I know my parents and my aunts, uncles, my grandparents, and then I didn't recognize anyone else. And so I thought, okay, I don't recognize the other names. And given the opportunities weren't there, but I didn't recognize any of the other names. And then when it came to like my grandparents, my aunts, uncles, I don't really know what they did for a living. Meaning I don't know what they contributed to the family tree. I don't know where I can draw strength from. And so I thought to myself in that moment, my great great grandchild at some point is going to look at the family tree and they're going to want to look at the names too. So I want to be the name that they see where they know that there was a shift in the family dynamic, the family line. And so what that says to me is my drive, my goal has to continue and it has to be so big because to reach 2 or 3 generations after you, you're gonna have to do something really big. And so that pushes me to keep going because I want them to start at a better place than I started at, but also have the tools and the resources to keep growing and keep getting better. So yeah.
So that generational wealth and kind of like passing down was such a great, yeah.
Yeah. And building a legacy for your family. This is a shifting gears. What is something you hope people say about you when you're not in the room?
It's a good question. I would say I hope people say that that I am a fair person and a fair person. And the reason why I say that is because I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the DISC assessment. Are you?
Mm-mm.
All right.
Yeah.
So a lot of like HR companies and things use that, but so there's 4 letters DISC, right? And so D stands for dominant, I stands for influencing, S stands for steadiness, C stands for cautious, and it's a profile. So you answer a bunch of questions and the algorithms show you what your behavioral pattern is and more like your behavioral style. And so mine, and it's a scale from 0 to 100, was really a 0 to 99, and I'm a 99D, which means my behavior style is very driven, very direct, and very dominant, right? And so sometimes that can come off wrong to certain individuals because I'm very direct. But I don't want them to take it as a personal attack. I want them to realize it's coming from a good place, right? I'm trying to help you. And so that's what I would want people to say is he's a very fair person, he's understanding. Um, and obviously everyone wants people to say good things, right?
Yes. So what does, in terms of, and like Selena said, part of us starting this whole podcast was redefining success and kind of going against what society says you need to have X, Y, and Z in order to be successful. So for you, what does success mean?
It's a great segue because I don't know if you can see the hat, but my personal development company is called Versatile Success, right? And so people are like, why do you name a personal development company Versatile Success? So the reason I did that is because versatility means that there's multiple ways to do something, right? But then success, in my opinion, everyone has their own definition and version of success. So whatever your definition and version of success is, there's more than one way to get there, because we hear a lot of people saying you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do this, you have to do that. So with the whole personal development thing, it's getting to the foundation of you, who you are, and doing things your way going forward. So for me, success, it looks like a lot of different things, but just really at the end of the day, being comfortable and happy while producing whatever I'm trying to produce. When I say produce, meaning going forward in life and not being stagnant, doing it in the way I want to do it, but also obviously being coachable, but not being afraid to be me while doing it and losing myself in the process.
When you said coachable, do you have a mentor?
I don't have a mentor. I have mentors like from afar, if that makes sense. So there's certain people I connect with, um, but their hands are pretty tied. So I don't look at them. I don't use them like in a day-to-day coaching style, but I definitely look up to them. And I'm a big knowledge soaker, so I'm a sponge for a lot of different things.
Yeah. So for your inner circle, what qualities do those people have to have?
So, yeah, the biggest quality for me, and this is where I get in trouble a lot, is I need someone to be like an action taker. It's hard for me to be around people that say they want to do something, but then you check with them like a month later or 2 months later or a year later and they haven't done anything, or they keep saying they want to do something and they haven't done anything. And that's where I find myself separating from those individuals. So you have to be an action taker. I want someone who's driven, but I guess overall, number one, I want someone who's wants to grow. Like they're not afraid of growing and they want to keep growing and discovering themselves. And so that's those three are important to me.
How big is your inner circle? That's the,
My inner circle is like my inner circle is small. Like I'm talking about small because I I've always had issues with trusting too many people at once.
Mhm.
Right. So I keep my circle tight in term, and now it depends on what like level the circle is, right? So I have the friends that you just I don't know if you just don't do anything really crazy with, but you hang out with and don't talk about anything deep and whatever. But when it
Yeah.
comes to like being driven in entrepreneurship and doing projects and doing all these different things, my circle is really small because I don't feel like, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but within the people I know, there's not too many people that can produce on the level that I produce, and there's not too many people that can execute on the level that I can execute, right? And I'm not tooting my own horn, but what I am saying within that message is I need a new, I don't want to say a new circle, but I need a circle that is higher than what I am now. So people that are doing something on the level that I'm not even doing it now, but I want to one day.
Mhm.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier ET. I like ET too, but like in terms of podcasts, who do you listen to? Like, where do you kind of grab your inspiration from?
Well, I definitely listen to ET. So I used to listen to Ed Milet's podcast, Tom Billiou. There is Sleepers for Suckers, who is Dave Shands. He's affiliated with ET. I don't know if you know who Inky Johnson is. He's coming out with a podcast.
Love his story.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I saw E and Inky speak in the same event a couple of years
Oh,
ago.
really? Wow.
And so in my book, right? I know I'm getting off topic, but in my book, I did write about certain people that I look up to. So Eric Thomas is a huge influence in my life. And so I wrote about him in the book and I had seen him speak twice. And then this year I signed up for one of his programs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it said, okay, you're gonna have a certain instructor at this time, get on a Zoom link. So I got on a Zoom link and there was no one else on at the time. And then all of a sudden Eric pops on. He was the instructor, even though it was a different name. And
Oh, wow.
so I'm talking to him just like I'm talking to you right now, right? And then he looks at the poster back there. He's like, you sent me your book, didn't you? I was like, yeah. But right, he couldn't, I don't know how it was positioned, but he couldn't really see like everything. He's like, yeah, it was the Split Boy. So if you look at the poster, it's split. And so he
Mm,
remembers me sending the book. Now I sent it as like gratitude for everything he's done, but he remembered the book. And I was talking to him one-on-one. So that was pretty cool. Back to the podcast. Yeah, that's pretty much all I listened to.
yeah. He's so down to earth. I really love him. I always have to fast forward, I'm not gonna lie, past the like sport part where he talk, you know how they'll just
Where
talk about
CJ be
sports.
talking
I'm
about
like,
sports all the
okay.
time. Yeah.
I'm like, let me get past this. But then the message is so powerful. I still, yeah, I listen to him regularly.
There's redefining wealth too. So that is shoot, I can't remember her name. I'll let you guys know if I remember if it comes back up. But there's a couple I listen to, but on the regular, it's the Eric Thomas podcast. I don't listen to as many as I used to.
Okay.
That story is so cool. I'm like so excited for you that happened when you met ET.
Want to hear the craziest part? About just that whole situation or the whole situation in last year, right? So Eric is one of the people I wrote about in my book. And I don't know if you guys have heard of Dr. Billy Allsbrooks, right? Blessed and Unstoppable. He's a motivational speaker. He's just be a rapper, turned motivational speaker, but I'm talking about like early 2000s rapper. His name was White Dog, apparently. And he did stuff with Rick Ross and Pitbull and all these things, right? But a couple of years ago, I started listening to more motivation and I kept hearing Blessed and Unstoppable, Dr. Billy Allsbrooks. And, okay, I like his stuff. And so he's one of the other names I mentioned in the book, just like Eric Thomas. Again, I sent him a book for like the thank you for the motivation. And then on the 1 year anniversary of my podcast, he was my guest.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's
So yeah.
dope. just all kind of like come in full circle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is cool. I love that.
So speaking about your book, Turn Down the Noise, like so is it a compilation of just people, like, can you explain exactly what's in the book for
Yeah.
our
So
listeners?
so Turn Down the Noise is a book that pretty much it speaks to my whole process of eliminating distractions so you go within to find the answers you're seeking. And then at the end of every chapter, it has a workbook. And those workbooks compound. At the end of the book, you have a 30-day goal based on who you are, based on your identity, based on your foundation. And you have your distractions that you know are going to hinder you. And you've made a plan to eliminate those distractions to produce whatever you're trying to produce. Because as we know, if we feel too stagnant, we feel like we're not progressing in life for a lot of people. And we feel like we're not doing enough. Once we accomplish something, that gives us motivation, right? Our confidence goes up. And so that's what the
Mhm.
culmination of the book is. But that's why it's called Turn on the Noise, based on my experience of no distractions, working on myself, meditations, affirmation. And the answer came to me. The craziest part is I wrote that book in 6 weeks. Now you're talking about someone who
Yeah.
was terrible in school. I was deathly afraid of people like just sending it to the first editor because I knew there's going to be a bunch of mistakes. And so
Mhm.
it was a fun process though.
Yeah. It's interesting that you have like that action piece of it. Cause I feel like sometimes I'll read some books that are I'm like, oh, this is a great book. But
Mhm.
then,
How do you apply it? Like what do you do?
yeah. So like
Yeah.
actually having a workbook where it's like, all right, so now that you've gotten the information, like here's the next step.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. It was so yeah, to answer that question, no, it's not a compilation. It's actually I finally decided to write it and not interview anyone. So yeah.
Yeah. And this is a side note. I mean, granted, we haven't seen each other since middle school. But it's interesting that I didn't know you were a bad student because you were
Yeah.
always very confident and like always very well spoken. So I was like, oh, Justin's so smart. But it's interesting how like what you see and how other people see you, even at that young age. I was like, oh, he's smart because I just remember you were always really well spoken, even in middle school.
See, I never knew anyone ever thought about me. That's the craziest part
Really?
is that you said that. Um the well-spoken part, I feel like that was one of my challenges in my early 20s, right? I'm like, oh,
Mm,
I need to start like learning certain I would watch certain things and like Google the words and try to remember it because I didn't feel like I was, but you're right. That's like the self-perception of what you think about
mhm.
yourself. And
Yeah.
one of the things I want to say to your audience is what I found is sometimes when we think negative about ourselves and we put it onto other people, it's just a mirror of how we think about ourselves. It's our own perception. So it's not really what they're thinking. It's our own perception. So I would be scared to speak, even to
Mm,
do like a podcast or a video, because I thought I got big lips and I know I'm gonna jumble my words up. I'm a stutter. I talk fast. It's gonna come out crazy. People gonna look at me crazy, like, yo, what is he doing? So I was scared to do that. But
mm,
I did it. And guess what? No one said anything. I was putting my own fears and projections on other individuals just to mirror it back to me to validate the reason why I shouldn't do it. So it's a
mhm.
crazy thing. But I'm thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Uh,
I wanted to
so
ask about, I wanted to circle back to so the business with the fitness, right? What made you want to get into that and what made you so a lot of people work out, but what made you want to start the business in it?
Yeah. So for me, in terms of the business piece, and so I'm gonna try to tie this in as best as possible because well, this is an important tie-in. But in terms of being an entrepreneur, I've always wanted to do my own thing,
Mhm,
right? And I've always had that drive. I don't know exactly where the drive came from. So with fitness, it was just a natural progression from playing sports, and I was in shape. And
mhm,
so people would ask me, "Hey, can you help me work out?" And so I remember, I think it was 2008. I had the idea to start the personal training business, but I was still in school at the time, and obviously I was years away from actually opening it, but I was still training people. And then 2013, an opportunity opened up where I got a location, and then I left my job and opened that business full time. So the fitness part of it was a natural progression, but I was never passionate about fitness. I
mm,
was just good at it, so I thought it's something I should be doing and let me
yeah.
mix it with entrepreneurship. And so that's why it's important to know yourself, because I didn't know exactly who I was. I was doing the business and I wasn't passionate about it. And that's why it burned me out. But
Mm-hmm.
what I discovered from it is I love helping people mentally, because for
Mm-hmm.
any trainer, they know that their clients will tell them everything and you become their counselor. And
Mm-hmm.
so one day I remember I was making a fitness plan and I started doing some mindset stuff in the fitness plan. I'm like, yeah, I love this part of it. But I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know yet that I would do a personal development business because I was still working on myself. And
Right.
then once I found who I was and my strengths and my passions, it all aligned. This is what you should be doing. And so, yeah, the fitness part was a natural progression, but I wasn't passionate about it.
Did you like working out though? I mean, I because you said you were doing sports, so it's like a fitness is obviously like a natural part of that. But did you like actually working out?
Yeah, I like working out for me, but like,
Because I was gonna, because you said that you had like those anger, the anger, and then like you're passionate. Does it, and that translates into working out, right? Like,
um,
do you feel like that?
for me, cause I remember a couple times where I was like really angry about something. I
Mhm.
said, let me work out to see if I feel better afterwards. I didn't though. But
Okay.
but
Okay.
here's why though, is back then I was just lifting a lot of weights. I didn't really do as much cardio.
Yeah.
But when I started doing cardio, it opened up my endorphins and I felt better
Mhm.
afterwards. And so at first, it, just working out was a natural thing for me. And then that was part of me. Okay, so I didn't feel confident in school, right? And I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel confident with girls, like none of that. I was just a good athlete, in my opinion, right? Because I had, some light skinned friends like Corey, getting everybody. So I'm like, okay, well, but anyway, I didn't have any confidence. So the fitness part and me, how I looked physically, was part of me trying to gain confidence back then when I was younger.
Mhm.
And so I tried to use that as, I guess, a tool to gain that confidence. So it was just a natural progression to keep working out.
Yeah. No, I was gonna ask. Well, I was asking that because, and this is a little selfish, but I'm obsessed with working out. But it's, and Iman knows, once I start, I can't stop. But I think it's a part about, because it makes me feel so good, and and I can get like that passion out, and that, like, if I'm that anger, like, because I could just go hard as I want, and I can keep going, and it's like a outlet for
Yeah,
that.
you're a passionate person though. You have a lot of energy, I can tell.
Yeah.
That's
So
for you, it's out. Yeah,
so
definitely.
it's really important to me. Like, I can't live without it. And so that's why I was asking, because and not totally selfish, for anybody listening, it could be a good outlet, like you said, especially when you do that. Well, whatever you do the opposite. Because at first I was only doing cardio, and then I started
Hmm.
doing weights, and it made me feel like what you said. I
I
know
had
it's
to
not
do
probably,
both. Yeah.
but I'm like, yeah, I'm strong. I got
Yeah.
this, like, and like
Oh
hit
yeah.
training and all that. So, and I did the same thing. Like, and I always talk about knowing yourself on here, but it's so important because I did the same thing. I got my certification in it mainly because I wanted to prove to myself that I could pass something, because had like insecurities. I wanted to prove that part, but then also I was like, well, I love working out, but I have that same thing. I hate making a program, but I still got clients. But I hate doing that
Don't
part.
tell them.
I'll be doing it like 2 hours before I'm about to meet them, and I put it off all week. I have it on my agenda, and I'm like, I hate that part. I just like being there and watching them, and like you said, motivating and doing that part. And I have a lot of energy, but it wasn't it's not good. Like, I'm not going to be like on a big time. That's not my
Like the
career
biggest
path.
loser or whatever.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly what
right.
I was thinking. So yeah, it's important to some things are just a release or a hobby or whatever. It doesn't have to be your career. Everything you
Mm.
like to do doesn't have to make you money or like turn
Hmm.
into something, a business. Sometimes you can just like something and just do it.
That's
So
an
it's
important lesson.
important
Yeah.
to look at,
Yeah.
it's important to remember that, and like, I mean, try, but I'm glad I tried, but I don't
Yeah.
know.
You said something important there too, like how you said it doesn't have to be a business. You can extrapolate certain parts though, right? So what I mean by this is I don't know how long the podcast, I don't know how much time we have, but I'm about to tell this story real quick if you don't
Okay.
mind. All
Go
right.
ahead.
We don't mind.
So when I was at that affluent in that area and got those promotions when I was part-time when I was younger, right? I was well known at that company, well known in that area for what I was doing. And then I uh, get a full-time job after school, after I graduate, and then I open my business for 4.5 years, and then I close it down. I go back to that same company, but this time I have a degree. This time I have a following. So what do? They give me a really decent position to where now I have employees. I'm full time now, and then I have employees. I have 90 employees under me. Right, that's a lot to deal with.
Mhm.
But I'm also stuck in the office, and I couldn't perform well at that job. I left after 18 months. So
Mhm.
what's the difference? It's the same company. This is why knowing yourself is so important. The reason I was successful the first time when I was part time is because I was in front of people. I was helping people. I was talking, right? I always say when I'm in front of people, the S comes out my shirt, right? Superman opens up. It's a show for
Mhm.
me. When I did the business, I didn't like the one-on-one clients that much in terms of training, but I love the big group trainings because it turns into a show for me. My personality comes out.
Yeah.
When I went back into that business, I was stuck in the office. That took my superpower away. So that's why it's important to know yourself, because you have to understand, number one, how you operate, but what your real true gifts and superpowers are. And so I was talking to, I guess you call this guy a mentor of mine, and he asked me a question. I think he said, "Are you an extrovert or an introvert?" And at the time I thought I was an introvert, but turns out I'm an extrovert. But he said, "You have the gift of when you're in front of a large crowd or in front of people, it like the lights turn on for you."
Mm.
And so that's what I do now, even like on this stage and podcast platforms. I like to be in front of people. So part of my recharging, or when I'm not in a good mood and I have to meet with a one-on-one client or a group that I'm running, is okay. I may not feel like it, but I know afterwards I feel great. So I'm going to do it anyway. And so that's part of like knowing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think learning yourself too is doing stuff. You
Hmm.
can't sit. So meditation helps, affirmations help, learning is important, but you have to do, like,
Action.
yeah, and try and fail. Like the fitness thing. If I had never tried it, I would have kept, it would have nagged at me. And I would have kept thinking like, Selena, you should do this, you should do this. I'm so glad I did it. I learned a lot. And now I know no. So
Right.
it's like, and I'm still doing it. So I don't want to like be offensive to anybody who I train, but
Hope they ain't listening. Not just playing.
I love y'all. But and I do like all my clients for real, but it's just the background stuff. It's the what's important is remembering the process to stuff. Because even when like I wanted to act, I hated the process. Like I like the performance part, but that's not that much of acting. Like when you're starting, like that's not that much of it. So
Right.
I think remembering, if it's something you think you like to do, the process is completely different than the like product or the end
Hmm.
result. So that's something to look at too, that I think is really, really important to remember. Even with the podcast, it's not just this.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Tell me about it.
It's not just,
I wanted to quit plenty of times, but
I would have quit if it wasn't for Iman.
So, Selena, let me ask you a question real quick. If you're in a room full of people, you can work the room, right? Like talk to people and just, or do you like are
No.
reserved?
When I'm alone, I'm very nervous. So I don't. But if I have a friend there that I know is supportive, like I'm like, all right, I got this. And then I'm boom. Yes.
Yeah. So one of your gifts is just being around people, like in talking to people and like working that situation because, and I'm just assuming, but I have a friend who's a trainer. He's going through some things as a trainer. I said, and he's having trouble getting business. I said, your gift is talking to people. You're a people person. You don't realize it. But every time he does it, he gets either new clients or he gets a lot of feedback.
Mm,
And so it's like knowing your energy sources, how you recharge and how you move is important. But like you're right, there's so many small intangibles and tangibles in between that we have to do and we're not aware of unless you take action. And so yeah, I
yeah.
like what you said.
Thank you.
The
Yeah.
thing too is also like you don't see yourself the way other people see. So
Mhm.
having people around you that like someone like you to point out and be like, look, this is a strength. Because I know me and Selena have done that where I've told her things where she's like, really? And like vice versa. So it's like having someone in your circle that can point out your strengths and your weaknesses and just
Hmm.
being receptive to that and be like, okay, how can I use this to benefit and like to grow as an individual?
Yeah, yeah, that's
We're our
important.
worst critics for sure.
Really
Yeah.
good point. I think our story of ourselves is so different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you guys ever written your life out?
No.
I've started, but I only get past like, yeah, I haven't gotten far, but I do eventually want to write
Yo,
my
here's
life.
the craziest part is what I tell people, and I have a lot of my clients do this, right? So anyone that's listening, you take your ages, let's say from age 6 to 13, would you experience, would you like, what didn't you like, would you go through, and then you do it for the like the other blocks of ages. And the reason why that was powerful for me is because I saw my life in an action format now. And so that gave me more confidence because it wasn't before you would think about all the negative stuff that you didn't accomplish or that you did and you got in trouble. But when you see the things you actually did, you're like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm this person. And so it's like
Mhm.
when you hear yourself talk on the camera, you're like, oh, I sound weird, but that's how we sound to ourselves. Everyone else hears us normal anyway.
Mhm.
And so it's that perception, like you said, Iman, of we're our own worst critics. And we have to realize that that we're our own worst critics.
Mhm.
I like that idea of doing like timestamps because I think that's
Yeah.
why I keep stopping because I'm like, oh, this is taking too long.
It's
I've
too
only
much.
got
Yeah.
2 years and I'm done. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Another exercise too could be, because I was going to ask you your suggestions, but I was applying for a job and they asked me, they sent me a questionnaire. There was a lot of different things about just my life. It didn't feel like a job questionnaire, but when I was writing it, I was like, damn, I've done a lot of things. And I had never realized that because one time me and mom were on a call with somebody, I was like, she did so much. And she was like, Sunny, you've done a lot too. And I was like, nah. But when I wrote it out, like you're saying, on those, even so somebody like they could do the time, the age, the timestamp, or a question, but just Google stuff to questions and prompts. But that really like put everything in perspective when I saw it on those it was like 3 pages. And I was like, every response was about something different that correlated with what they were asking. And I was like, wow, that's
you,
something.
you amaze yourself. It's like, who is that? That's
I'm
me.
like,
Okay.
I'm amazing.
Right.
I
Right.
didn't think I was amazing, but I was like, I've done way more than I thought I did,
Yep.
you
Yeah, I
know?
like that. Yeah.
So it was really eye-opening. I think that would be a really good exercise for anyone. If you think
Mhm.
you didn't do something, you probably did.
Yeah. And sometimes, listen, sometimes that journal assignment is painful for certain people, but
Yes.
they need to get to it though.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
listen, part of my temper was okay. I think I was naturally like was just like that as early as I can remember, at least, right? And my son, even when he was like 1.5, no 1, he was just getting angry. And I found out like my grandfather is like, it sort of runs in the family, shorter fuse. And but I've also realized that part of my issue was my relationship with my father.
Mm.
I didn't think I had an issue with that. Now here's why. My parents have been married for 43 years, 44 years. And so I'm like, okay, both my parents are in the home. My dad worked the B shift, so we didn't really see him that much.
Mhm.
But he was also from the South and he's from the military. So whatever
Mm.
he said goes. You couldn't talk back. And I like to, at least have that rapport and talk to people. So if I had to hold everything in and I couldn't say anything in the house, when it came to school and administrators and teachers, if they said something and their voice just fluctuated a little bit, or I thought in my mind it was a little disrespectful, I would lash out. So that's part of where the anger came from. Is I realized even though my father lived in the house and things like that, I still had daddy issues because I don't remember a lot of the things, and so I had to address those just in general, because that's what, like, the foundation is. When you find a crack, you can't just leave the crack. You have to seal it up, and then you can build from there.
Yeah. Know your triggers. And I was just gonna say, I didn't think um I didn't think that I was so upset about my dad. And I wrote him a letter. And I was just writing, and I was like, I'm gonna mail this. When I started writing that letter, like I was at work. This is another job I had a long time ago. I ain't used to do nothing, y'all. But so I was like, I was in my cubicle and I was like, but I got so upset going in. I was just like, let me send him this letter because I want him to talk to me. I had to go to the bathroom. Like, it was
Mhm.
crazy, all the stuff that came out. So those exercises, like you said, they can be intense. So yeah, just a little
You need it
warning.
though. You need it to build, like,
Well, you
listen,
do.
because
You
if you
do.
build on a faulty foundation, when the storm comes, that stuff can come crumbling down.
I know for me, a lot of times I hear stuff like this and I might think like, oh, I don't have that. I don't, that doesn't relate to me. But like, that's why I brought up that exercise of like writing a letter to, or you don't have to do that, but it just brought out way more than I knew about. So I just want people listening, like, if you think something doesn't relate to you, just really think about it or just try it, because you never know what really is in there until you go in and see. Like,
Yeah.
I
And
think
like,
it's worth exploring.
in full disclosure, like even in my early 20s, I had issues with like women too, meaning um like I don't think I appreciated women as much. And then I couldn't figure out why until I got older and I figured out why. And so once you start doing those exercises, it helps reverse engineer, right? Like the process. When I say appreciate them, I don't mean like I was disrespectful, but I just didn't appreciate like what they had to offer as much. You know what I mean? So I would sort of just dismiss certain things or not really talk to certain people that I felt like weren't doing anything with their life or whatever the case was. But I realized where that came from. And then it helped me reverse engineer and address the situation because I realized a lot of things in my adult life, I was just looking through the eyes of a 13-year-old or a 15-year-old or a 6-year-old Justin Rambo. You know what I mean? So I had to realize, okay, you're a big boy now. Figure out what the issues are and go forward.
Yeah.
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 That's good that you were able to reflect, because I know
Mhm.
a lot of people that they're just like, oh, this is just how I am. And it's like, take it or leave it. But being able to look back and say, like, okay, why am I this way? And like, what can I do to change it
Yeah.
or improve it for sure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's important. The reflection all the time.
Okay. So, in terms of like our listeners, someone that wants to start their own podcast or write their own book, what piece of advice would you give them?
So part of knowing yourself and understanding your gifts is I realize I have the ability to really organize things prior to doing something if I have the right information. And so if you're going to start a podcast or you're going to write a book, make sure you get organized first. And I'm talking about even something as simple as your computer files, how you organize those folders, because you need to know where everything is, how to get to it, and X, Y, and Z. And in fact, I had one of my clients, he had a project, and his project, his goal was to start a podcast in 30 days. He had no real knowledge of it other than listening to certain podcasts. And so when it came to, I think, day 28, I said, okay, let me see your stuff. He's like, okay, well, I'm gonna share my screen with you. And he couldn't figure out how to do that. So and he ended up giving me his password. I shared my screen with him, but in his account, and he had nothing organized and he was messing he couldn't figure out what was going on because everything was just disorganized. And so I helped him with the organized system, and then to this day he just drops episodes every week. And so if it's a book or if it's a podcast, organization will help speed the process up, and it will help you feel a lot more organized and clear-headed, so that way you can keep going versus feeling overwhelmed. Like I said, I wrote the book in 6 weeks and I started the podcast in 5 weeks because I gained all the information first and then I got organized and then I moved. So for me, it's information, mobilize, and then action.
Yeah. Well, this time went really fast, but
It
we
did.
are pretty much done. Do you have anything else to say or offer?
In terms of, I guess, where you can find me on social media, my handles on social media, Facebook and Instagram is Mr. Personal Development. And then the website is www.versatilesuccess.com. And I'm proud to announce I'm releasing my first pre-recorded program, the Lost and Found program. So that program has been going really well. It's a program that takes individuals who don't have the confidence, they don't have clarity, they're not sure who they are, they're not sure what their gifts are, their strengths, or how to use them, what I call the superpowers. And in 30 days, we turn all that stuff around through 4 different stages. So the first stage in the first week is the foundation, the second stage and second week is about the strengths, and then we go to goal setting and then traits. And then the fifth week, which is like the last week, it's all about tying everything together, and then they have a 30-day goal after that. So that program I've been running is a instructor led program, and now I'm turning it into a program that is coming out for pre-recorded for people that have to do it on their own time.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, it sounds good. So Iman, you have anything else?
No, no.
Okay. We're going to close out again. Thank you, Justin, for sharing your time with us and inspiring our listeners to redefine success for themselves. Remember, where can they find your book? Turn Down
Oh,
the
sorry.
Noise.
Yep. So it's on Amazon, and printback and ebook, and then also on Barnes and Nobles and printback.
Okay, we'll put links in the show notes too.
Yeah. And of course, thank you, listeners. We couldn't do this without you. Remember to like and comment and share this episode. Leave a review. We always appreciate your feedback. You can subscribe to You Plus Happy on Instagram and also on YouTube.
We'll see you next week, same time, same place. And we have our guests say our tagline, which is long. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. We'll show you our definition of success if you show us yours.
Want me to say it?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll
Got
show
this.
you our definition of success if you show me yours.
Yeah.
Not everyone gets it the first time. So
No, I don't think I would.
A lot of practice.
Thank you so much, Justin, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.